But let's move on towards the end of the race, and Bottas comes in on a couple of laps before the end, and comes in for new tyres, and then goes out and is seemingly going to set the fastest lap of the race. At the time, it was broadcasted that Bottas is coming in, and everyone's thinking, right, he's going to go for fastest lap because he's got a clear pit stop window behind him. He's not going to catch Lewis at this rate because he was 30 seconds behind. He's going to come in and secure that fastest point for Mercedes, even though Lewis already held that fastest lap of the race, and if no cars were going to box, it was probably going to stay with Lewis. Interestingly, Bottas is on his second lap outside of his pit stop, and has gone purple sector 1 and purple sector 2. Over the radio, we have that famous "It's James, Valtteri, it's James. Please abandon your fastest lap." Now, we saw this, or we heard this on the radio whilst Bottas was in sector 3. Now, obviously, there's a bit of a delay with the radio, like we've come to learn with Formula One. It's probably happened like 10, 15, 20 seconds ago. So I fully expect that radio message to have been through the end of sector 1 or sector 2 once Bottas has set those fast sector 1 times or halfway through sector 2, and it's looking like he was going to get fastest lap. So Bottas, for whatever reason, completed his lap, and he did go fastest despite the team orders. Now, it's unclear, or I'm unclear, whether Bottas actually slowed down or not on the start-finish line. The commentary team seemed to think he did. But again, there was no live pictures, there was no on boards with him. It was, he
did have a much slower third sector. I think he had a really bad third sector. So I think he might have slowed down a little bit.
It was a bad third sector, but I still think he was still purple in sector 3. He was only just purple in sector 3 instead of 8 tenths faster than what he was, in sector 2 and sector 1. So he completed the fastest lap, and then obviously got the extra point, only for Lewis to box the next lap and then retake that fastest point away from Bottas. Interestingly, Lewis on the radio says, "I need this extra point." So Lewis is already doing the calculations in his head. Max is going to win the race. We need to secure an extra point. We need to, as in Lewis needs to, I need to, instead of my teammate having it. So that's why they boxed him. Whether they were going to already box him or not, I don't know. But since Bottas seemed to take that point away from Lewis had no choice but to box and take that point back. Very interesting. It's team orders, but to a level which I don't think we've seen before, really. We've seen team orders like Lando and Daniel doing the old switcheroo on track. And we've seen team orders where Lewis was coming by Bottas in Spain, and it took Bottas a couple of corners to let Lewis go, or Bottas didn't let Lewis go until a really awkward corner. But this is a new level. This is not for position. It was for fastest lap, which I don't think we've seen really before, telling someone to slow down, to abandon his fastest lap attempt. I mean, he's well within his right to go as fast as he wants. He's got a fresh set of tyres, but having to give that up for Lewis Hamilton really set the tone for the race and for what was announced a day or two after.
Yeah, it was Bottas showing a little bit of fire for once, maybe. Because he was told that they weren't going for the fastest lap, and he did say, why? I can't remember what the reason they gave him now, but they didn't mention, it wasn't about points, I don't think.
No.
It was something to do with like tyre safety or something like that. It was some nonsense reason, basically.
Yeah.
And so Bottas kind of went for it anyway, which I was glad to see. I was glad to see Bottas going for a bit of a last hurrah, given what we know now about him going to Alfa Romeo. And it's come a bit too late, really. I was hoping Bottas might show a little bit more of that fire a bit earlier on, but no, he sort of possibly maybe did a little bit of what he was told, but ended up setting the fastest lap anyway, and Lewis did it anyway.